Hi there. My name is Bob Dunsmore. I'm filming this video on a camera and I had to make sure I was recording. I have the best news that you will ever hear. I sincerely mean that. And so do all the people involved with the Heart Mind Alliance, a nonprofit that has been figuring out how we can solve the climate crisis. We all believe that this is the most important news you will ever hear, because we now know how to solve the climate crisis and prevent the Earth from tipping into a catastrophic extinction event, the 6th extinction on the planet. I learned this. I had the privilege of meeting with who I consider to be #1 climate scientist in the United States. I met with him in Oakland and learned from him what he considered to be the only solution there is to the climate crisis, to reverse global warming within, I believe, 2 to 3 years from the research I've done, from talking to John BERGER, this climate scientist. I believe that within 2 to 3 years of our Congress implementing this simple, low-tech, low-risk, low-cost solution, we would see a reversal of the global warming. And it's such an elegant solution, has so many benefits. Wait till you see what I have to share with you that was shared with me by John BERGER, okay? Here's a picture of John, the good man, and he wrote this book, Solving the Climate Crisis, which has changed my life. I am passionate about this because I have 3 grandchildren, and I want to be able to look into their eyes and say, you have a beautiful future ahead, a regenerative future full of life and the restoration of the earth. And I can't do that right now. There's no way I could lie. It'd be like setting a trap for something wild, as David Crosby put it. On page 229 of Solving the Climate Crisis, John mentions a solution, and I have printed it out in bigger letters here. I've been asked to get this into print where people can actually see what I'm reading. It has become clear. John BERGER, one of our nation's top climate scientists, authors Solving the Climate Crisis, is thankfully right. What if there were a way to safely pull billions of tons of carbon out of the atmosphere to substantially reduce or even eliminate global warming? What if this approach costs relatively little and could be used around the world? What if it also put billions of dollars in cash into the hands of countless working Americans and people worldwide? What if it even slashed fuel consumptions and made the world more resilient to climate stress? Well, he says, it turns out that there is a system that can do all of that. It is called carbon farming. And it just might be key to restabilizing the climate. In the process, it can revitalize rural economies while also producing healthier, more nutritious crops. And amazingly, it is low cost, low tech, and low risk. It's a down-to-earth solution to global warming that employs nature's omnipresent carbon cycle, which constantly shuttles molecules of carbon in and out of the atmosphere, soil, fresh water, and ocean. Yet carbon farming is still neither widely known nor widely practiced today. And of course we know why. It's because it doesn't make much money for corporations. Right now corporations are making trillions of dollars on building windmills and solar farms and electric vehicles and batteries and all of that, making us believe that that's actually going to solve the climate crisis, and yet it is what is aggravating it in many ways right now. beyond measure, exponentially aggravating global warming by dumping billions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, which won't dissipate for 300 or 400 years. We simply don't have that time. John Berger is an environmental science and policy specialist, a prize-winning author and journalist, a graduate of Stanford University and the University of California. Berger has written for Scientific American, HuffPost, the Los Angeles Times, the Boston Globe, the Christian Science Monitor, and the USA Today magazine. He has been a consultant to the National Research Council of the National Academy of Sciences and the U.S. Congress, as well as a professor at the University of Maryland. John co-founded the Nuclear Information and Resource Service and founded Restoring the Earth to bring environmental restoration to national attention. A brief bio. This gentleman knows what he's talking about. So we realize, and I've got some YouTube videos that you might like to check out that are explaining in more detail how the climate crisis is solved. Both of these start out with good news, exclamation point, climate crisis solution, and good news, exclamation point, why carbon drawdown only solution. For a search, I would put good news, why carbon drawdown, and it should come up. We at the Heart Mind Alliance are trying to get this word out because we have so much misinformation about all these wonderful things, by the way, that are being created, like windmills and solar panels and electric vehicles and all that, but they're not going to solve the climate crisis. Not yet, anyway. So I think we need to focus our attention quite a bit more, especially Congress of the United States. I think that they could still achieve mandating chemical agribusiness transition to regenerative organic agriculture. That's huge. Another one that I want to mention is reforestation. The forests are one of the greater sinks of carbon in the world, next to the ocean, actually. The oceans. Approving subsidies for small farmers to return to land appropriated by agribusiness. This is something that Congress could do. Redirecting subsidies from agriculture that kills the soil to helping transition to organic agriculture with organic soil aggregates and organic controls for insects and weeds and viable seed for heirloom reseeding. The majority of this nation's citizens wish for this transition. This is important. I've talked to Kansas farmers, people in the red states, that have actually told me that it's a sin against God to not be able to grow food and soil because it's dead, and the seeds are designed to die from the agribusiness corporations. The packages of chemicals that come with this are so deadly that it's polluting water sources around the country. It's so sad. But we now know what to do. As discussed on NPR, such a mandate to go to organic agriculture, if applied to countries where millions have abandoned their farms for not being able to feed their families, this would end the immigration problem. It would also, this mandate, reverse climate change. That's neat. Have agriculture become principally locally based. We would all love that. As proven, result in communities becoming economically stable wherever agriculture is locally based. And that would be the nature of organic agriculture, because the chemical agriculture would be phased out. It would increase exponentially the nutrition from crops. decrease health problems caused by preponderance of chemicals surrounding communities. And here's a big one. Check this out. Talk about good news. This would create millions of jobs overnight in more labor-intensive farming, because chemical farming is not that labor-intensive. And those machines they use to spray toxins just aren't going to be used in organic agriculture. It can keep agribusiness viable with no jobs lost as they transition to life-giving agriculture and learn how to cooperate with nature to produce healthier crops. And I want to mention here something that, let me jump ahead here to another fact. According to the United Nations, this is hard to believe, but blew me away. I've worked in 20 countries, and so when I found this out, I began to focus on how to create a carbon positive, really, fuel source for cooking. Because the number one cause of worldwide deforestation, according to the United Nations, is the daily cutting of trees for cooking fuel. The only fuel that's not subsidized, by the way, and yet the most essential of all. Can you imagine? In those 20 countries that I worked, communities after community said that if we could provide cooking fuel so that they wouldn't have to cut down trees for cooking, that they would protect the forests around them. And they would reforest the areas because they know how important trees are to prevent flooding. In eastern Bolivia, 200,000 families are flooded every year practically because there are no trees between their communities and the Andes. That water comes rushing down. It brings death. It kills animals. People have to move into other land around the eastern part of Bolivia. That's just one example, and they're ready to reforest if they could just get some cooking fuel. And so I worked on cooking fuel machines which produced cooking fuel out of rice chaff, coffee pulp, sawdust, and the bagasse, which is a sawdust from making sugar cane. There's no venture capital. No one is interested. Doesn't make enough money for this is to save the forests, you know. Doesn't make enough money for corporations. A government drawdown project supporting the transition to regenerative agriculture and holistic livestock management for increasing the carbon drawdown capacity of the land. This could be brought about by Congress. Government support to use the keyline or yeoman plow. It's a subsoil plow invented in Australia, which doesn't turn the soil over and kill all the microorganisms with UV light, but brings moisture and water down 2 feet into the ground at least, and where thousands of seeds are waiting to just burst. You know, they've been there for hundreds of years, and it just creates this incredible explosion of life. Just one plow, if that could be subsidized to help bring back life to farmers and to their land, we would see a movement back to land that had been appropriated by agribusiness when their pollens come into the land next door. That land is confiscated. Unbelievably, it's been supported in every court case by the judicial system, and having to force thousands of American farmers off their land, not to mention abroad. There's so many solutions like the one here mentioned here to transition to livestock production, to holistic management methods such as discussed or discovered by the Savory Institute here near me in Boulder, Colorado, in which livestock actually create forests. there's so much to learn about holistic livestock management, which works with cattle and sheep, goats. It's just an amazing discovery. And you can see that the waste can be turned into biogas for cooking, heating, lighting, and transportation fuel. This is a big one because we won't need to replace our fleet by dumping billions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere. We can actually use compressed, natural, unfracked gas, hopefully, that the effluent from biogas digesters can be dried as an excellent organic soil fertilizer. In India, there are millions of these. All fuel-injected vehicles can be easily converted to run on natural gas. I had a Forerunner in Bolivia that ran on natural gas. Works beautifully. $500 kit for the carburetor, and it had the option to run on gasoline also. A government-supported program to accelerate reforestation worldwide, in tandem with the shuttering of electric generation stations that burn trees and destroy forests and provide subsidized fuel logs such as those made of agricultural waste or natural biogas for cooking. According, and I already read this, it's the #1 cause of worldwide deforestation is the daily cutting of trees for cooking fuel, the only fuel not subsidized, yet the most essential of all. Boy, could I share with you some stories of working in Haiti, the most deforested country in the world, which, by the way, depends on carbon for cooking fuel. Cutting trees and creating carbon. I believe that's a word in English, carbonized fuel. Here's a little bit about myself, just so you know. I've had some interesting work with the Heart Mind Alliance. We've created a blockchain secured website where when you vote, you actually have a personal ledger, and you can see your vote on the blockchain and know that it's transparent, and you can actually check if the vote was counted, and not only that, if it was counted correctly. We the people, directvotedemocracy.com. Now receiving votes on the first question before the nation, asking if we might prefer to live in a constitutional democracy. I produced a documentary on Bolivia, on the democratic revolution of Bolivia, which inspired me to do what I'm doing right now. It is on YouTube. It's called Bolivia Beyond Belief, and then in Spanish it is called Bolivia Más Allá de la Fe. Bolivia Beyond Belief. After working in 20 countries in community development, a YouTube channel I created with 135 videos of the most successful appropriate technologies, the community-based appropriate technologies. Kind of a long title, but it'll get you to where you can see the amazing indigenous technologies that I learned in those countries. Just fascinating. I served as area director for South America and the Caribbean for Habitat for Humanity. I'm a reflexologist certified by the International Institute of Reflexology. I could go on, but the main thing I want to share, which I also have in my book, I Am, A Journey Through Times and Spaces, and the book, The Great Mandate. I have had enough experience with communities that are suffering from the impact of our North American, especially supposedly developed countries, the industrialized countries of the world, the impact it has had on Bolivia, where the glaciers are melting, where in Tibet, and where the source of major rivers like the Ganges and the Yellow River and so many others that are feeding half of the world's population with water, providing water. All that's going to be gone unless we do something about it, and we can. And here it is. This is the solution: carbon farming, reforesting, providing cooking fuel so that people can let the trees grow, to pull down more carbon out of the atmosphere, put it into the root system of the trees down, and store that carbon in the mycelium and fungal matter underneath the trees. Every plant that lives and grows in regenerated soil pulls down carbon out of the atmosphere and puts it into the tissue of plants, which then grow and pull down more carbon. Isn't that amazing that right there is a solution which alone could reverse climate change? I was told by a scientist here in Boulder that if only 1% of India's land were regenerated, talking about the arable land, which is now all dead, if 1% of that were regenerated, it could draw down all the carbon dioxide produced by humans on the planet. Those aren't my words, that's a scientist's word. So we have a wonderful opportunity here to do something good for our children and their children, and for the planet and all life on the planet. And I hope you'll join me in getting this word out, because all we need is to have some congressperson say, aha, I like this, and I'm going to get our government to be the leader in the world of humbly understanding that we need to redirect our energies towards the earth, not towards populating Mars or any of that for now. Let's wait on that one until we get the earth saved, okay? Write me at the heartmindalliance@gmail.com and pass this on. That's the main thing I want. I just feel so excited that I finally figured out how to make these videos. I'm 77 years old, and I've been trying for years to figure out how to get all this good news out to the world, and now I finally figured it out. Learned how to do a TikTok video the other day. I had forgotten to turn on the microphone under settings. Okay, hey. I'll be putting out more videos if I get some good responses from you, because there's so much to share you would not believe of what I've learned around the world about how to take on this crisis and how to solve it in a beautiful, elegant, empowering way. Thank you. Bye-bye.